All right, welcome back to the Cozy Pet Podcast. Cozy mysteries come in all shapes and sizes. They may take place in a dusty old bookstore, a bakery that smells so good you gain 20 pounds just by walking in the door, or a bed and breakfast in a tiny town so magical you can't understand how it hasn't been taken over by tourists. Victims may be stabbed, poisoned, bludgeoned, or strangled, but we don't see all the gory details. There are usually secrets and lies, lovers and enemies, red herrings, and hidden clues. But there's one thing that all the best cozies have, in my opinion anyway, and that is a pet. It may be a dog whose loyalty takes him directly into danger, even though he somehow always ends up okay. Or it may be a cat who barely tolerates humans, but still manages to wake up from their cat nap and save us from ourselves. It might even be some other animal whose skills and characteristics make them the only hero who could perfectly match up with our human hero. That is, unless, of course, the animal is the true hero of the story. Hello, I'm Chris Abernathy, author of the Detective Whiskers Cozy Mystery series and your host for the Cozy Pet Podcast. And this is where we go behind the scenes and get the real scoop on our favorite felines, canines, and other animals of the cozy mystery world. Each episode includes an exclusive interview with a cozy mystery author who joins us to talk about the pet or pets in their books. And today we're going to find out all about Grok, the feline star of the Amanda Warren Cozy Animal Mystery series. And here to tell us about Grok is author Seren Star Goode. Hello, Seren.
Hi, Chris. How are you today?
I am doing very, very well. Well, actually, I'm just getting over a cold, which I understand you are too.
Me too. Me too.
We didn't give it to each other because you're in California and I'm in Alabama.
No, beauty of Zoom is we do not contaminate.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about Grok. He's not a small cat. He's a Maine Coon. So
Yes.
do
Grok is not a small cat. That is true. And that's actually part of his charm is because he's got that beautiful, delicate grace of a cat, but he is a 35-pound gray and white Maine Coon cat with the personality of a full-grown human.
you have or have you ever had a Maine Coon?
I have not. He's kind of based on my childhood pet. His name is Blueberry, but Blueberry was a Siamese cat and he was full of personality. And so Grok is kind of based on him.
Grok doesn't sound like a blueberry, but I'll trust you that there are some similarities.
Middle grades girls name things differently.
All right, so the heroine in your series is a dog groomer.
Mhm.
But then Grok obviously is a cat, so I bet that creates some hairy moments.
It does a little bit. I mean, dog groomers will also groom cats. It's just
Mhm.
the most of their work is dog grooming. And so there is definitely a little conflict there. There's been several times where Grok has gotten into a mess, and Amanda's been able to clean him up afterwards because of her expertise. So, she definitely gets to work on Grok sometimes.
Yeah, the 35-pound cat, he can stand up against most of the dogs.
Well,
Yeah.
he's pretty much ruler of the neighborhood. He doesn't think of himself as an animal, and so it was very easy to give him a personality just like a person because he is actually he has a thing about humans being not quite as smart as he is, and so Grok is just a force of nature with his personality, and yeah, he does not count himself with the other cats and dogs of the neighborhood. He is a superior being.
And when he first meets Amanda, your heroine, he doesn't count her among the humans either, does he? He thinks that she's a clone
Yes.
of her twin sister. So I
Yeah.
loved how you showed him checking her out like she's not a real person.
Yeah. It's kind of a second chance story. The series starts off like about that. And actually the whole series is a second chance, but the first book specifically, Amanda arrives in town hoping to reunite with her long lost twin sister, and the sister's gone and there's a body in the house. And so she's kind of stuck after the police have left with I have no place to stay and my sister's not here and I don't know what to do. So she's just sleeping on the front porch trying to figure out what to do next, and Grok comes across her and thinks that she is a clone of his mistress who is missing. And I don't say mistress, Grok isn't owned by anyone.
Right.
It's kind of more like of the Grok's caretaker who is like a butler to him. That person is missing, and he thinks that Amanda is the clone of the twin sister.
Yeah. And you're not going to fool a cat like that, are you? You can't throw a clone in. You might fool the humans, but Grok's not going to be fooled by that. He knows
No,
it's not her.
no, he has a very good way of figuring it out.
And even though he's suspicious of her, he saves her life almost immediately.
He does. Yeah, that's actually one of the first things he does, even though he doesn't, like you said, he's suspicious of her and he's not, there's a part of him, he's a reluctant detective. He is reluctantly a part of the community as well too, and yet he's constantly a little bit on protective mode. It is a part of his personality to make sure people are safe, even though it's also a part of his personality to want to stay aloof from them. It's kind of like a cat. I mean, it's just like other cats.
Yeah. But he's not just like all other cats in a lot of ways. So one way that he's different, maybe a little bit more like a goldfish, is his memory.
Yes. Yeah. So I call him a psychic amnesiac cat because Grok has a problem that he doesn't know where he came from or how he arrived there in Ocean Wood. He doesn't remember much before his Amanda's twin sister Alexandra is the one that found him, and he doesn't remember much from that. And even periods of time he was with Alexandra are very spotty in his memory. And whenever he tries to probe too deeply into his memory, he has a kind of an attack. He ends up with a horrible migraine that sends him into unconsciousness and he'll pass out. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen at the best possible place. And so he frequently ends up in places he didn't mean to because he passed out there.
I passed out once in Edinburgh, Scotland. That was whew, woke up on the sidewalk by myself. That
Oh,
was
wow.
yeah. That was my travel tip. Number one, if you're traveling alone, make sure you eat properly.
Yeah, yes. I passed out once in Poland. Same thing. I hadn't actually had enough to drink that day, and I passed out in line in a store in Poland, and just woke up. Yeah, I fortunately woke up still in the line in the store in Poland with everyone staring down at me.
Yeah. Now, I was on a ghost tour in
Oh,
seeing the haunted sites of Edinburgh. So we weren't in necessarily the best part of town. And yeah, so first thing I do is I check for my wallet. It was still there. So I must not have been out for long.
lucky, very
They were
lucky.
they were telling something particularly gory, which does not. This is why I'm a cozy writer. Okay, I don't do the gory stuff. It's not for me.
Me
Uh,
too.
they're talking about rats and cages on top of stomachs, and I'm like, no, no. So I walk away from the group, and that may not have been the best decision.
That's why I wrote cozy too, because I actually I like the softer side of it. I love a great adventure where you know it's not going to get too intense or it's not going to get too gory. Or it's not going to, you know, pull into that territory we don't want. I love the cozy because of the comforting feel, but you still get that great adventure and the mystery in there.
Yeah, you can engage your brain and try to figure things out, and you can meet really interesting characters, but you're not on edge.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is comfortable, and that's what I like to give to my readers. I want when a reader finishes one of my books, I want them to feel good. I want them to
Mhm.
feel good about themselves, and I want them to feel good about being.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like to write worlds that kind of feel familiar, but they're sort of wonderfully different. So a person can like safely explore this other world and place and just know they're going to get the thing that they came there for. They're going to get that satisfying justice at the end, but they're going to have a fun ride through the adventure.
Mhm. All right, so you're on the central coast of California. Is that a good place for pets? And what pets do you actually have?
So I have two dogs that are rescue dogs, and they're a kind of a mix between a terrier, border collie, chihuahua. I don't even want to explain how that all happened. Um, and I feel like a lot of that personality that I see in my dogs, and just that interaction and that love you have for your pet. I feel like that's part of the essential part of like a pet cozy mystery as well too, is getting
Right.
to have that connection with an animal.
Hmm. So what kind of activities do you get to do with them out there?
Well, I love to take them walking. We go through the park a lot. I like to take them to the beach as well too, but they're not water dogs, which is kind of sad. I
Yeah.
admit I wish they were more, but then I see the dogs that dive into the surf and roll into the sand and look a mess afterwards. I'm like, I'm kind of glad they didn't want to go in.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
I
can
love
relate to
taking them to
that.
the beach and watch them jump back every time the surf comes back at them again, even though it was just there a minute ago.
Yeah. We take Gracie down to the beach. We're on the Alabama Gulf Coast, and
Ah,
we'll get down to the beach there, and I see those dogs going through, and I'm like, I'm glad they're not getting into my car.
yeah. Yeah, so true. I go beach walking a whole lot. I have actually have in my newsletter, I have a beach walk like story every time in every one of my newsletters. And I love it because I can combine something that I love doing is walking on the beach, but also it ties so much into the stories that I write, which are based in a small fictitious town called Oceanwood in the Monterey Bay area. So I get to kind of tie it into a lot of what I'm writing too.
Fun. All right, so in the opening scene of the first book, Monterey Bay Mystery, first book in the Amanda Warren Cozy Animal Mystery series, Grok, it's from Grok's point of view as he's discovering Amanda, the clone that has shown up, and he comments to himself that nobody. He says something, but he comments, you know, they're nobody's going to understand me. They never do. That changes though, right?
Hmm. It does. It does. I love it. One of my favorite things is be able to kind of suspend reality a little bit and have a human actually communicate with the pet, to have human communicate with the animal. I feel like there's this closer connection that occurs when that happens. And so I do have Alexandra, the twin sister, was able to communicate with Grok, and he's never found anyone else that could. And so then when Amanda turns up, he's quite surprised that he can also talk to her as well too. And Amanda, of course, is shocked. She's never talked to an animal before. I mean, she's been grooming dogs for years and years, and all of a sudden there's a cat that's talking to her. It's crazy.
Yeah. I went a little bit of a different direction with my series. I went with the cat is able to communicate with other animals, but not with any of the humans, but figures out some ways. And my stories are actually told from the perspective of the cat. It's first person from the cat's perspective. And so he has to figure out ways to communicate without being able to use words. And then he finally, in one of the books, meets a cat who is able to communicate with humans and takes advantage of that skill a little bit while he can. But yeah, it's interesting to a lot of different authors handle it a lot of different ways,
Yeah,
it's fun to look and see how those communication skills show up and how they might evolve in some cases, and the pluses and minuses. We say we want to know what the animals are saying to us, but do we really? We find out that sometimes that may not be the
yeah.
thing, is it?
Case in point with Grok, there's a lot of time where Amanda wishes she doesn't know what he wants to say because now that he knows he can speak to her, he is very opinionated. He has a lot of opinion on humans and how they don't reach his level of intelligence, and he has a lot of opinions on the neighbors and the town. And but at the same time, like I said, he's super protective of them. And part of that whole second chance arc that's happening is Amanda is super protective of him, and they really are they really don't know that each of them is taking care of the other one, thinking they're the ones that's the protector. So it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah. How does he get along with the other animals in the area?
He's in charge of them or runs them. He doesn't he it's kind of like an overlord to the other animals. They're that no, he keeps them all in line. He doesn't bother like being the leader, but he makes sure everyone knows he's on top, and you just don't question that.
Doesn't feel like he's one of them, but he feels like he has some responsibility towards them.
I wouldn't even say that he's one of them. He really is very, very much feels closer to the humans or above the humans than he does. The animal population is just there to get in his way and occasionally be of assistance, and that's about it. There's a really there's a cute dog called Cubert that just thinks of Grok as a brother, and Grok kind of reluctantly puts up with it. But Cubert's a great big English sheepdog, and so he's just all hair and bouncing and like a little bit of a Tigger going on, and Grok is just like putting up with it, rolling his eyes.
So, how much of the investigation is Grok and how much of it is Amanda?
They are a real who done it duo. They are just partners in everything. Grok is equally coming up with the solutions and brainstorming what's going on and doing the investigations. The two of them talk through all the time. Are talking through kind of their version of a murder board and trying to figure out who it is that has done this crime, and also looking out for each other, making sure that the other one's not getting into too deep of trouble. They split up and they each take off, and investigate certain things and then get back together and talk about it. It's their real whodunit duo.
Hmm. So you've recently released a, Christmas story novella,
Mhm.
and that's, I guess, with the short story and then the two full books and then the Christmas story. So you got a total of four stories. Is that right at this point?
I I do the short story and novella, and then two full novels. Mary Murder came out in the fall of last year. Mary Malice, sorry, Monterey Bay Malice is coming out in about 2 months, so that'll be the third book in the series. And
Ooh.
then Menace will come out in the fall. Monterey Bay Menace will come out in the fall. It's a mouthful, the M's.
So is that are you planning on continuing it past that point? That's just what you've got planned so far for this year?
Yeah, I think, isn't that the same thing you kind of have as like, where do I start or stop this
Yeah.
series? I think my brain just thinks in series. So to be honest, I had like 10 books planned for this series, and then I came up with a spin-off series, and like three spin-off series, and they're all tied into the same world. And I was like, oh, I want to start this other one. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do five in this and then start the other spin-off series, which is really cool. And Grok can still kind of be in that. But so yeah, my brain thinks in series, and so I'm always wanting to kind of like push a few more books in there.
Hmm. I just wrapped up my series, the Detective Whiskers series, with book number 9, uh,
Ah,
with a holiday book, and kind of wrapped up a bunch of the storylines for all the different characters. Um, but I do want to continue with at least some of the characters, and I want to do more with Detective Whiskers, and not sure exactly who all is going to be involved in that, but I'm going to sit back a little bit and let them tell me. That makes sense to you, I'm sure, right?
absolutely. I mean, they're in charge. We just write their stories. They really are telling us where they want to go.
Yeah, I thought at one point, I guess it was around book 6, that I thought I might have been done with the series, or I might be wrapping it up then. I was like, no, no, that there's still further to go with these characters, and it's fun to see that play out. We're really not completely in. We can go and make some decisions for ourselves, but a lot of it just kind of happens for us. And for me, some of that is influenced by, what the readers tell me. Um, if they're really, they may point out something about a character or relationship or whatever that I guess subconsciously I knew it, but consciously I hadn't realized it. And then, oh, you know what? You're right. I didn't know it with my characters in my book, but you are right. And then that gives me a little bit more inspiration to keep on going and create something new there.
So true. I mean, our readers are so smart. I love my readers. They always are coming up with something. I'm like, oh, I wrote that, but I actually didn't see that until you said it. So my readers are really smart, and I just love. They tell me stories. I send out a newsletter. I send out a little birthday gift, and every time I say, just email me when it's your birthday, and a birthday month, and then I'll send you this birthday gift. And I get little stories with them about their birthdays when they email me, and I love hearing little snippets into their lives and what they're doing and what they love about the series and kind of how it ties in with how they're living their lives. And yeah, so my readers are wonderful.
Cool. So you definitely want to stay in touch with your readers. How can they get in contact? Where can they find you online?
Absolutely. So my website, serengoode.com, SERENGOODE.com, has all of my books on it. You can also find me, I'm in Amazon, I'm in Kindle Unlimited. My paperbacks are available in a bunch of other sources as well too, and that's all linkable through my website. And then you can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Seren Goode Writes, and that's SERENGOODE.com or Saren Good writes with the E at the end of good.
So for this series, you're Saren. Star Goode,
Yeah.
but you know, they can find
Yeah,
you.
I added the star in there so that people would know that this all my cozy mystery stuff has the star in it.
Mhm. So aside from cozy, if people likes a little bit of difference, we don't want to talk too much about that, but
I
um,
did some young adult sci-fi because I love sci-fi. So I did some young adult sci-fi, and that's just under Seren Good.
all right. So if we were wrapping up an interview with Grok,
Hmm.
what would he be wanting to say to me at this point?
Where's the fish? Where's my pay? Where's my payday? Where's my fish? He's a little bit food obsessed.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, he will work for pastries, he'll work for salmon cakes, you name it. He's that's the one thing where he can be influenced very much so if food's involved.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody go check out Grok and the other stars of the series with Seren Star Goode. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Cozy Pet Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll know when it's time to meet another author and their cozy mystery pets. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can do that at facebook.com/author Chris Abernathy. You can visit my website at authorchrisabernathy.com. And now you've got some new books to read, so I'll see you next time on the Cozy Pet Podcast. Bye.